All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Samurai Brothers episode number 47, Matthew. And it's the end of the Nagoya Basho. And so we have quite a few things to discuss about it and what all happened throughout the Basho, and then what we'll see for who's going to move where for the Banzuke in September, and discuss who ended up winning the U show, which was quite a surprise in the end. And then we'll be closing out the episode with a tribute to a legendary wrestler in the pro wrestling community. So stay tuned for that. So, Matthew, without further ado, we're going to get right into the Nagoya Basho. And I predicted that Kirishima was going to win, and then you predicted that it was going to be Ono Sato with a and then you also thought Aonishiki might be in the running. And as it turns out, I think after day 8, which was when we had the last our last episode, it was Kirishima, Tamawashi, Ichiyamamoto, and Kusano were all leading the field at 7-1. And then chasing in the 2-loss group was Onosato, Takayasu, Aonishiki, Ura, Koto Shoho, and Mitaki Umi. And it kind of started getting crazy after that because, for one, so day 9, Onosato managed to win, and also Kirishima lost. Aonishiki wins, Tamawashi loses, Koto Shoho wins. We also had Mitakeumi winning and all that. So, it kind of got muddled with Ichiyamamoto being the only 8-1 person, and then followed by a field of 7. And then to close out the second, third of the Basho, then we were at Ichiyamamoto leading at 9-1, followed by Kirishima, Aonishiki, Tamawashi, Kusano, Koto Shoho, and Mitakeumi. And to kind of close out day 10 before we move into the last third of the Basho, Tamawashi got matched up against Onosato in day 10 and managed to beat him, and became the oldest wrestler at 40 years and 7 months to win a Kimboshi. So kind of focus on that first with the Iron Man being the Iron Man. Matthew, your thoughts on how the race was after day 10?
Well, it just goes to show that with the format of how they do things in professional sumo, things can change really quickly. Someone who's wins the first day, someone who's leading halfway through the basho, like when we last did our podcast, things can turn around really quickly, and the scoreboard can change really quickly, and that's what happened. And I'm having watched in MMA probably within the past 10 years of fighters that were like old, like in their 40s or late 30s old, not only win, but win championships. I'm going to be honest, even though Tamawashi is old for a sumo wrestler, but the fact of the matter is he's still out there. And like I said, having seen in my area, my specialty area, things turn around like that. To me, it just goes to show that longevity is possible. I mean, you're not gonna often see like your Tom Brady's and people like that who are like doing this, long after your prime athletic years in your mid late 20s, early 30s. But it is possible, and Tamawashi just demonstrated that because he was in the usual race at one point, and he got a Kimboshi at age 40, continuing to set records. So
I would have to say that so there are wrestlers down in the lower ranks that are in their early and even in mid 40s. That's kind of been a thing.
Yeah, like
However,
I
it's
saw that. I saw that. I think it was last Basho. Some guy was like, I might have been close to like 50 or something like that in the lower
well,
ranks.
there used to be Hanakaze who wrestled until he was about 50 or 51, which was quite something. But the thing is that remaining in the Sekitori ranks to the at the age of 40, it is very, very hard to do. I think we saw that with Ami Nishiki. He did manage to do that. Kyoku Tenho also managed to do that, but it's just such a rarity. I mean, even getting up into your late 30s and staying up in the top ranks is an achievement in and of itself. But the fact that Tamawashi has managed to do this.
Well, yeah, like Takayasu made it back into the Sanyaku ranks
Mm-hmm.
at he's what, 37?
He's 35 now. After day 10, he was actually 7-3, which was, I mean, a surprise for both of us. And the fact that, we were like, hey, he goes 6-9 in the last Basho, and they only relegated him to the west side instead of dropping him into the Hiramaku ranks. But then all of a sudden, he turns it around. He's proving that, hey, maybe the Kyokai was right in this instance.
Yeah, he took that opportunity and he ran with it. It was just like, I've been gifted this opportunity.
So going in,
I'm not gonna waste it.
yeah. So going into day 11, so then we had Ichi Yamamoto was faced up against Takayasu and then loses. So now the Yusho race is blown wide open because after day 9, Ao Nishiki also kind of be staying steady, and then also Kusano, the Shinyu Maku, and also we also have Koto Shoho also hanging in there. So 4 guys at 9-2, followed by a group of 6: Onosato, Kirishima, Takayasu, Tamawashi, still Atami, Fuji, Mitaku, all at 8-3. So you got 10 guys, that are making strong cases for the Yusho, right? And so then we have on day 12. Now, here's where things start to get interesting because what ends up happening is Ichi Yamamoto is faced up against Onosato. Onosato ending up becoming the victor of that. Kusano faced up against Wakataga Kage, who in his own right is trying to make his case for being on an Ozeki run. Up to this point, after day 12, he manages to stay at 8-4. Still has a chance at double digits, but he's cutting it really close, if he wants to maintain that. Koto Shoho is brought all the way up. He's ranked at M15, brought up against Takayasu and manages to win. Ao Nishiki matched up against Tamawashi and beats the Iron Man. So now it's getting whittled down. The people at 10-2 after day 12 are Ao Nishiki and Koto Shoho. So you got 2 Hiramakus. And then at 9-3, you've got Ono Sato, and then all in the Maegashira ranks, Ichi Yamamoto, Atami Fuji, and Kusano. So really, really now starting to get chaotic, right? Uh, it's just somehow, the Basho keeps getting crazier and crazier. So then we want to go on to day 13 before I want to finish this out and get your opinions about this. So day 13 is where things all of a sudden really, get interesting. We see Ao Nishiki emerges victorious over Ichi Yamamoto. So Ichi Yamamoto's goes from having been the leader, at 9-1, and has fallen, like 4 steps back. Tamawashi beats Takayasu to have a slim chance of staying in the Yusho race. Wakataka Kage manages to win, keeping his Ozeki hopes alive. Kusano beats Kirishima, having been brought up all the way from the bottom of the division. And then another upset, Atami Fuji upsets Kotozakura, who is now at this point trying to stave off Karoban status. He's 7-6 after day 13. But then here's the one match that people actually don't talk about the significance of one part of the stat, which I want to go into. But Koto Shoho matched up against Onosato, M15, and manages to beat him. And I'm sure you saw the match, Matthew. This was not just he beat him convincingly. So now we got four people essentially in the Yusho race. Aonishiki and Koto Shoho at 11-2, and then Atami Fuji and Kusano at 10-2. It is basically a four-man race after day 14, and they're all Maegashira. So, Matthew, your thoughts about the craziness after day 13?
Well, to me, minus, to me that it's if you looked at most of it's clearly an example of like the old guard still not out yet versus these new up and comers who are clearly looking to make a statement, and especially with Kusano and Aonishiki. Aonishiki was the oldest up and was tied with the youngest with Hakuoho in Makunouchi. Up until Fujinokawa usurped that. He's a year younger than them. Kusano is a little bit older, but he's he has a
he's collegiate.
Yeah, he has a collegiate pedigree, so he's still relatively new, and but it's his Shin Makunouchi debut. So he's basically the old guard saying we're not done yet, the new guard saying we're here. Don't underestimate us.
Yeah, still a crazy basho the way this is going right now. And so the significant stat I want to point out here, Koto Shoho at M15 East. And I'm a bit surprised that the media didn't talk about this, the Japanese media, but he essentially has rewritten the record books in terms of the lowest Kimboshi winner of all time. At M15, the lowest before that had been M14. So for him to be able to do this marks a new entry into the record book. He does hold that record now.
Yeah, it was one of those things where he kind of had to do that in order to stay relevant in the
Yusho race.
Yeah, in the Yusho race.
Yeah, unbelievable. So I mean, also
one record that Aonishiki beat that Koto Shoho did not is that even though he was higher, Aonishiki set the shortest number of basho from debut to getting a kimboshi. I think it was 12 or something like that, versus like the 15 that was set by a certain Konishiki Yatsushi.
Yes, that's true. Very, very true. Yeah, so that's a really interesting how that goes. So going into day 14, so we had matched up. Kusano and Aonishiki were matched up. Also, Atami Fuji Takayasu, Koto Shoho Kirishima, and then Wakataka Kage versus Onosato. So what we saw here, and this is where it made it really, really interesting. Kusano, considered the underdog, manages to beat Aonishiki. And then Atami Fuji loses to Takayasu, and this essentially knocks Atami Fuji out of the Yusho race at 10-4 because Koto Shoho delivers yet another upset to Kirishima, pushing the Yusho line to 12-2, essentially eliminating all 10-4 wrestlers. And at that point, and then also Onosato, even though he's eliminated, manages to defeat Wakataka Kage. So Onosato manages to get his 10th win of the Basho. Now, you have Koto Shoho leading at 12-2, Aonishiki and Kusano at 11-3. So a couple of things could happen. You're either going to have Koto Shoho would have to win on day 15 outright to win the Yusho, or depending on who he gets matched up with, there could be a potential for a playoff. Matthew. Just seeing how essentially this was a guaranteed Hiramaku Yusho after day 14. Your thoughts on this?
This was and, at that point it was just like, oh my gosh, this is it's like this is heating up, and this is it's I would at 25, Koto Shoho is not exactly old, but he's been around for a while, and it's even though he had like he's won Juryo Yusho, and he got like one runner up, but he hasn't really differentiated himself from the pack. And so here he was finally having a good Yusho stacking up, but he's also having to compete with the new breed, who, again, like I said, are saying, we're here, don't underestimate us.
That's right. And so here's what we have now, going into day 15. So Sano is matched up against Takayasu, and then it's Aonishiki and Koto Shoho. So basically, Aonishiki has to win to force the playoff, and Sano would have to win his match in order to be able to get into the playoff should Aonishiki be victorious. And Aonishiki and Koto Shoho are going first. With that being said, what happens? Well, Aonishiki came in low. Koto Shoho took advantage of that and won by a Tsuki Otoshi to clinch the Yusho at 13-2 with a Sarogatake wrestler. Kusano, the only consolation he had was that he could try to get Seoul Jun Yusho, but Takayasu, the veteran, showed grit in his case and managed to beat Kusano. In the Koreori Sanyaku first match, Tamawashi was matched up against Oshoma, and I think they put Tamawashi in there because they wanted to showcase the veteran. I could think of no other way, no other reason why they wouldn't put him in there. And to Tamawashi's credit, he also wins. He also gets a claim of the Junyu show. And then at 11-4, Wakataka Kage does keep his Ozeki run hopes alive by beating fellow Sekiwake Kirishima to finish 10-5. So he's now at 22 wins within the Sanyaku. So there's a good chance if he can go 11-4 in the next Basho, he will probably get promoted. Kirishima, unfortunately, with that type of finish, his Ozeki run is essentially reset because there's no way that he can be promoted next Basho, even with a great record. And then lastly, Onosato also clinches a share of the Jun Yusho by beating Kotozakura. Kotozakura finishes 8-7. Onosato finishes 11-4. And we'll obviously go into that. But just before we talk about all the special prizes and stuff like that, just this whole thing with Koto Shoho managing to win the Basho. Obviously, Matthew, you mentioned about how he's been injured and having to win Juryo Yusho and stuff, but just overall, how crazy this Basho was. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy Basho, definitely a bunch of ups and downs. A few things I want to point out, speaking of injuries. I hope that Takeru Fuji and Ura are both okay. Also, and with Tobizaru. There were a lot of people.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who dropped out because of injuries, and I'm hoping that they're all okay. Because we've seen what happens when people get injured and they go all the way down, like low. And Ura's had enough injuries as it is. He's yo-yoed, and it's just,
Yeah, there ended up being, so after on day 15 in total, the number of Sekitori who did not compete, Hoshoryu obviously, Daieisho, Tobizaru, Takeru Fuji, Endo. Now, Hide Naomi had dropped out, but he came back. Not sure why, because he only ended up with 2 wins for the,
Yeah,
so he had pulled out, right? So he's going down to Juryo regardless. And then down in the Juryo, Mitoryu and Nabatame, they pulled out. So that's another two. Nishiki Fuji at one point had to pull out, but he decided to come back. But he did manage to get enough wins where he finished with what's essentially a 10-5 record. So, I mean, if you can go, you go. But that's like, 9 people that at one point or another had to pull out of the Basho.
Oh, speaking of Juryo, they didn't win the Basho, but Yuden and Nishikigi, who both were at M1, got their Kachikoshis. So
they'll definitely be coming up because there's plenty of people that are going to fall down.
Yeah, so we'll see them again.
So just to kind of Matthew, overall, I mean, this was a big win for obviously Koto Shoho and the Saruga Takebeya. Your thoughts on what we might be seeing for this?
I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I think that with how things were going, Koto Shoho should have been going against higher up, tougher people earlier, is what I think should have been happening. And I think because of that, the results were kind of skewed in his favor.
I think one of the things, and I've been seeing this mentioned on Sumo Forum, is the fact that he lost his 2 matches early. Like, he was at the point where, let me just pull up his record. So after day 5, he was 3-2. So, then he started. Now, it wasn't until day 11 when he's 9-2. He was first matched against Takayasu. Then he got matched against Onosato. And then he was matched against Kirishima. I think, though, they did not match him against Kotozakura because I think they were trying to give Kotozakura opponents to be able to finish Kachikoshi. And with the challenge, of course, they're Heia mates, so they wouldn't have been able to wrestle each other anyway. So I would say that
I was gonna say I don't recall any time when Heia mates went against each other not for the Yusho. There's never been a Heia that's so dominant. Like I'll throw an example right there. Isegahamaya is dominant. They've got like 5-6 people in Makunochi, but that's 5-6 people of 17 or no, not even 17 of there's it's like 30 something guys, right?
Yeah, they would have had to probably throw Koto Shoho against Wakataka Kage because he probably would have been a better opponent.
Yeah, so there's never been a situation. The only time I can think of where 2 stablemates went against each other for a Yusho in recent history, and maybe you can correct me, was the Hanada brothers.
No, actually, more recently was when Takano Hana and Takano Nami went against each other. So I don't. Which was 1998.
You get the point, though.
Yeah,
you get the point, though. That's over. That's
27 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost 30 years ago, but you get the point. It's you don't see that all that often. So, and like I said, even with Isegahamaya being the dominant people, even with Takeru Fuji, or no,
it was Teruno Fuji back in the day.
Teruno Fuji. I was getting my Fujis mixed up. Even with Teruno Fuji out, they've still got a bunch of people, especially since the post. I keep forgetting what his Heia was called, but basically since the post Hakuho merger,
Miyagino,
is they've still got a lot of people, so it's not but even with that, they're not going against each other because there's still plenty of other.
They've got a rule for that.
There's still plenty of other fish in that lake or sea,
So
or however you want to put it.
so
So
here's what we have. In the end, you had so Koto Shoho, 13-2, and he was awarded the I think he was, let's see what he was awarded. He was awarded the Kanto Show, Fighting Spirit, and the Shukun Show, obviously for winning the U Show. They seem to award the Shukun Show Outstanding Performance to Hiramaku when they win the U Show, these days. And this is now 2025 now has a Hiramaku U Show for every year except 2022, I believe. There has been let me make sure I got it right. 2023. So every year since 2020, yes, or no, since 2018. Every year since 2018, except for 2023, there has been a Hiramaku Yusho winner. Pretty crazy stat if you think about it. Koto Shoho he got 2 special prizes. Other special prize winners, Kusano, obviously in his Shinyu Maku debut, he got the Technique Award, and he also got the Fighting Spirit Award for finishing with 10 plus wins in his debut Basho. Aonishiki ended up getting the Technique Award, and boy, man, he had some techniques, I would say.
yeah, he was instituting a lot of techniques that you just don't see. You just don't see in Makunochi, the elite level. Even the elite level, you just don't see most of that, which is why he's where he is, and why he's gonna be a Sanyaku next Basho. He's taking
well
he's gonna be
deserved.
taking Oshoma's spot.
Yeah. And then a surprise winner. Actually, we weren't even sure if he was going to be able to make it, but Fujinokawa, who is also a Shinyu Maku, he was 9-5 going into the last day, and he managed to win, thereby meeting the conditional 10-5 record, achieving a Kanto show. So congratulations to him. But then obviously I think the most deserved award out of everyone went to Tamawashi, finishing 11-4 and getting the outstanding performance award, Shukun Show. Obviously for beating Onosato, but just the fact that finishing 11-4, and especially in the Joijin at M4 at 40 years old, I can see why they did not hesitate. Like, they didn't even give him a condition. It wasn't even conditional. They awarded it to him straight off. And then just finishing with the Jun Yusho was icing on the cake for him. So I'm really happy to see that. And that also for him, he managed to break the oldest Sancho winner award record.
Yeah, it is nice to see that his longevity and his performance is being rewarded, because he's clearly not done yet. He's
absolutely not. And here's another thing I'm going to be excited to see. So don't know how he'll do next Basho, but here's a crazy stat that we could be looking at for Tamawashi. Currently, right now, he has 689 Makuuchi career wins. He has a chance to break into the top 10 within this year. I don't think he won't do it next Basho, obviously, because this I would consider to be kind of an outlier. But if he can manage to stay injury free, and if he can get 12 wins over the next 2 Basho, he has the chance of tying Takanohana at 701 career Makuuchi career wins. So he has a chance to pass one of the greats of the sport.
Well, one of the things to remember is that Takanohana, he started very early.
Mm-hmm.
He came from the sumo family, and he started very early on because of that,
Yeah.
he didn't go to college and
Didn't go to
and
high
stuff
school.
like. Yeah, he didn't. Well, also we should probably bring up the fact that in Japan, compulsory education ends at
At middle school.
at middle school, which in Japan is because they have they have elementary school, they have or no, they Yochien, which is preschool, is not required, right?
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, so basically pre TK
Yeah.
kindergarten is you've got that. Then you've got 1 through 6. It's not over here where depending on the school district, it could be 1 through 6 or it could be 1 through 5. And then you have 6, 7, 8. It's 1 through 6. Then middle school is 7, 8, 9, and then that's where compulsory education ends. And then high school is
10,
10, 11,
11, 12.
12.
Yep.
And then you got and then
College. Yeah.
college more at that point more closely resembles the
You'll have to
the
make it quick because we're running short on time.
right. Well, okay, yeah, that's I made my point. So yeah, he decided to just go in after a compulsory education to just continue sumo, and that's how he had such a long time. Is he started early, and that's he rose up and he was able to make
He peaked early.
yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations to Koto Shoho. Obviously a surprise there, but I know a lot of people have loved watching and following him. So, this is just part of the hard work put in. It'll be interesting to see. I don't see him getting ranked too high because there were actually quite a few people above him that finished Kachikoshi. It's going to be an obvious fight for the lower Sanyaku ranks. And then interesting to see how many people get changed out between the divisions. So we'll keep an eye on that.
So I'm gonna say this. I don't know if he's ever going to repeat this again. This might be a career high for him because of the fact that, again, he had an easier tournament than Kusano probably had a similar challenge tournament, but Aonishiki had a far more challenging tournament than either of those guys. Like I keep saying this, but I'm gonna keep saying it. He had to face the Sanyaku Gauntlet his first 7 matches. He had to face all 7 of them, and he came out with
it was like a 5-2 record, I think.
He came out with a 5-2 record.
Yep.
Including a Kimboshi. And
however, I have to point out he did lose to Kusano and Koto Shoho. So the Yusho was his to lose at that point.
Yeah, that is the thing.
All right. Well, with about 5 minutes we have left. So we were notified of the news. Obviously, everyone was. Hulk Hogan passed away at the age of 71 on July 24th last week. And I have to say that, I remember when you and I used to watch WWE back when we were living in Japan because we had access to that. Mom didn't really put WWF, as it was known back then, on. I think it might have been on cable. That's why, and obviously, Mom and Dad didn't believe in spending.
You mean WCW?
Well, no, because he was on.
We were watching WWF because it was on AFN.
Yeah.
But WCW they weren't broadcasting because it was on cable.
Yeah. But one thing I remember, and I remember classmates of mine would talk about Hulk Hogan. So they were obviously watching, pro wrestling at the time back when, we used to live in Cyprus. And then obviously everyone remembers the legendary match that he had with Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. And I was able to watch that recently because, WWE did put that up on their YouTube channel. And going into, obviously, you can go into all the background you want about, that compared to nowadays. it might not be as good. But the thing is that it
Not as
captivated a lot.
technical.
Yeah, not as
It's all about
technical
the
as
show.
and you know, Andre obviously was in the what do you call that? The twilight of his career, and I think everybody knew that. But you know,
he was wearing a back brace in that match.
well, and you know, the thing is, you have to give props to Andre for being willing to go out there and all the pain that he had in order to be able to put, you know, Hogan over. And you know, Hogan.
The reason why he came out on a platform is because he couldn't walk that far.
Right.
His body was breaking down. The fact that he was actually able to go out there, not to make. So if you look very closely at when Hogan slams Andre, which by the way was not the first time that happened, nor was he the only person, because he did that for
other people have done it.
He basically kind of jumps.
Yeah, he does, because he had to. He's a 500-pound guy.
Yeah, you can see that that what's his name that Hogan never really actually holds his weight. It's more like a mid-air
just somersault.
Yeah, it's more like a mid-air somersault. It's like he's basically directing him as he's in the air.
But anyway, I think just you know, so that, you know, made it a legendary match. But Hulk Hogan really, you know, with all the other things he did, obviously he teamed up with Macho Man, Randy Savage, among other things. He was Hollywood Hulk Hogan in a
NWO,
right, kind of a villainous type of way. He starred in a lot of movies. You know, he did a lot of things for a lot of he made a lot of people look up to him and such. And you can, you know, since we only have 2 minutes left, you can go through all the controversies and stuff that followed him in the later part of his life. But the fact is that what I was happy to see was that WWE did pay the 10 bell tribute to him. You know, when they recorded their one episode last week, I think it was very befitting that, you know, they would at least do that for him, because let's be honest, without Hulk Hogan, you know, WWE would not be where it is today. And so that's the one thing I just wanted to say about Hulk Hogan. Matthew, closing.
He's as you said, he's not without controversy, and we'd have to do like a whole podcast to talk about the ins and outs and stuff like that. But well, if you think about it, he not only was he essential in, you know, the 80s boom period, but he was also essential in igniting pro wrestling in the 90s with the NWO, because without the NWO, there wouldn't have been an Attitude Era. And with you know, the Monday Night Wars. So yeah, he was a part of that. So
I think you know, well, obviously he'll be missed by a lot of people, you know, but we still have a lot of the memories, a lot of the matches that we can watch on YouTube. You know, so
one last thing I'm gonna say is I'm wondering how this is gonna affect that the Real American freestyle Real Pro Wrestling promotion that he was gonna be a part of, because their first event is Wednesday. So I don't know how it's gonna affect the success or not.
Well,
but yeah, that's
that is our alarm. So
rest in peace. Rest in peace, Terry Bollea is.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have to sign out. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time.